We entrepreneurs, I think we love risk. And I feel that sometimes we're not the best people to understand the risk that we get into. What we did was kind of like jump from the cliff and build our wings on our way down as we usually do.
Joaquin Cordero is the standing global chair of Entrepreneurs organization. Outside of that, he's founded over 11 startups across advertising, technology, and real estate. But success didn't come without the cost.
There is a cost of sleeping or not sleeping at 3 a.m. in the morning thinking how you're going to make payroll, or anxious because your client hasn't paid the 30-day promise that they said they would, and they say that next Friday and it turns into next Wednesday and whatnot. You don't want to be working for someone all your life from 8 to 5. So you change that to working for yourself every day and even on weekends, right?
After exiting one of his businesses, he subsequently discovered a brutal truth which uncovered a whole web of lies in behind the scene.
After we had exited the business, we came to find out by our biggest competitor that they were partners in that business as well in the same time. This is something that I have never shared in a podcast before. In COVID, where our biggest client, which was what they called a Black Widow client, that if it goes, it kills you.
Not content to settle for business risk alone, Joaquin is a very keen adventurer, and one of those adventures nearly cost him his life.
Over 400 bees stung me. I had to jump from a fifth-story building, not a building, but from a crag, but it was 12 meters high, 36 feet, and I broke my neck, my ankle, and it was a really hard accident, and I had over 400 stings.
I believe reality for us is that deep satisfaction, deep contentment as an individual comes from finding Kenny Cordero, welcome to the show, my brother.
Thank you very much, my dear Josh. So happy to be here.
Great to have you. So you've been in media, technology, advertising, real estate, and you've had a foray into investing as well. So when you go to a dinner party, do you have like a go-to one-liner, or do you just say to people, I'm in witness protection, let's leave it there, and change the subject?
I do the latter. Yeah, I tell I'm in witness protection, and we change the subject. No, I'm kidding. I don't have a one-liner per se. When I share what I do in my life, I talk about the business that I'm in right now, that it's the advertising business, and I share a little bit on what I do there and examples where people can understand what that entails.
Yeah, it's interesting. I have a similar problem because I've come from a background of doing a whole variety of different things, and I can get stuck on informing people about those because it gives sufficient context to where I'm at now. Because when I say I advise founders on how to build value for their exit moment, people's eyes glaze over. And so I kind of go, I serve entrepreneurs and help them realize all they can out of their business, which is how you and I met, in fact, through Entrepreneurs Organization.
Yeah. So I guess we'll have that elevator pitch and we share what we're doing. And I guess mine would be to say that I'm in the advertising agency business, and that we work from 3 countries, Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras, mostly for the Central American market. And we work for brands like Danone with all their brands, Activia, Danonino, Oikos, all of those brands I think you guys have over there as well in New Zealand. And we also work for Volkswagen in the 3 countries with all their brands. They have the distributors here, they have some Chinese brands as well. So it's like 6 car brands and many other more local brands. And we do everything from strategy, creativity, design, digital, media buying, and production, audiovisual making. So it's, and even BTL. So it's like the whole line of communications.
Love it. Okay. So you've been involved in at least 2 exits, and there's possibly others that are lurking around in the background, but we were speaking about specifically the data center and Kinney Mobile. So let's start with the data center, because that was something you'd never done before, and someone approached you with an opportunity, or you turned something over. So give us the backstory if you could, and then we'll talk about what that journey looked like.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it actually has to do with the other tech business as well, because we started a tech business in 2010, and we expanded quickly to many countries in Central America. By I don't know, it was probably 2018. We were in over 12 countries: Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Panama, Dominican Republic, in the islands as well, Puerto Rico, Jamaica. So it was a lot of presence in different countries, servicing carriers, telecommunications companies, in things that are fall either under advertising or marketing, and technology, carrier billing mostly. And through that, we had a contact. It was my partner's brother-in-law from Monterrey, Mexico, and they spoke one day, like we just did, searching like kind of like a elevator pitch. And one said, "Oh, you work with carriers?" "Yeah, well, I do data centers." "Oh, really?" "Yeah." Somebody contacted me because there's a pitch in Guatemala with Claro. Claro is one of the biggest telecom companies, owned by Carlos Slim from Mexico, and they are from Mexico to Argentina, and we work with them in over 6 countries. And he said, "Can you go to this meeting?" "Yeah, sure, let's go." And we went to the meeting and we understood what they wanted. We didn't have that experience, but we did have the partner who had that experience. He had over 3,000 square meters in data centers already under his belt, and it was really interesting. It was a new business, a lot of importing, of putting together and follow up. It was a tremendous project management task, and we finished it very well. It was a project that was $1,600,000 in around a year's time, and we were able to fulfill it and make a profit out of it, being our first time.
So when you went into a space that you had no kind of previous background or experience in, what's the process that you go through to understand what the opportunities, what the pitfalls are, what the things are that'll kind of trip you up and not enable you to make a profit out of it?
We entrepreneurs, I think we love risk. And I feel that sometimes we're not the best people to understand the risk that we get into. If I would have to go through it again, I wouldn't finance it. We put our name of the company for the bank to finance it, and I guess we're covering all the risk for not a very small profit, but not a very big volume profit either. What we did was kind of like jump from the cliff and build our wings on our way down, as we usually do. We kind of said, "What did you say you need?" "Yeah, okay. Have you done this before?" "Okay, in which places?" Our partner in Monterrey, he even had the book on doing data centers. He was a published author, and we told him we have the connections here in Guatemala. We know a lot of people. Guatemala is a small country, 18 million people, and you normally, like, it's like 2 or 3 degrees of separation, I guess. And that's how we started. And we had a lot of hurdles, but we had a very strong financial guy. He was the one who had worked with us as our CFO during the company for a lot of years. And he was really helpful in managing those little nuances that are coins, I guess, that turn into dollars and in itself into thousands of dollars, and finding little tweaks around the system as well. We got one time a box with some equipment, and the price was one thing, and what came in the box was a lot less. So those were insights that I guess you get during a lot of time of managing this type of businesses. But we were able to continue working with them. There were some hurdles, not something huge, but definitely some that we were able to get through.
So you've raised a really interesting subject and around risk, but I'll just touch on a couple of the points that you made there. So you were emphasizing that having competent financial insight was critical to make sure that project worked, because there's so many things that could have kind of gone wrong along the way. Making the effective systems on the way as you went, so you didn't get too carried away with systems and processes at the outset. Sometimes we can do that, and so we can prevent ourselves from getting the job done occasionally. And trusting your instinct. I'm going to read in between some lines there as well to go, you've been in and around business before, and just kind of run with the punches. But a key thing that you mentioned there was risk. And I'll go back to a conversation that I had recently with one of New Zealand's, in fact, largest business brokerages. So they sell more businesses than any other brokerage in the country. And he was talking about the profile of people that are attracted to buying other people's businesses and how rarely it happens for folk that have come from a corporate background. And so those that have come up through the enterprise and have had jobs through the course of their career tend to be highly risk averse. Something that I observe within entrepreneurs, and you definitely manifest this, as do I, probably to a lesser extent, but we also have a risk-taking elements in other areas of our lives, not just inside business. And I've not thought about this before, but I wonder, is there like a part of our brain that is like not as well formed or that is missing as entrepreneurs? You know, do we have this thing that we like the thrill of the ride, or do we have an underformed amygdala or something like that? And that might be a bit of a psychology kind of question that's unexpected for you, but have you used this kind of propensity for risk thing before?
I think we definitely do have something different in our system, and I often think about it. That they say that second childs are more able to do an entrepreneurship than first childs. First childs are more, I guess, rules followers, and in that sense, I think that we do are risk averse. And that and bringing a part of risk, they say that business happens at the speed of trust, and in that sense, I had a very strong foundation because I was working with one partner who is a cousin of mine, a partner of this company, Kini Mobile, and he was an electric engineering expert, so he had a big know of an understanding of managing this type of business that we were going to do. So he was kind of like the translator. We had a very good executioner and a very strong numbers guy with the CFO. Relations, I was very good on the relations with this company, and I knew someone that was going to be in charge of receiving that business on the end of the telephone company, and that's where we were able to make a good team and to bring value and finally deliver. But coming back to the part of the risk, I definitely see it. Sometimes we say that we change the 8 to 9, the 9 to 5 p.m. For the 24/7, right? You don't want to be working for someone all your life from 8 to 5. So you change that to working for yourself every day and even on weekends, right? So it's funny, but it gives you some liberty as well because you're able to work on the time that you want to work, and you can burn out one day and then relax the next day, and you're able to manage that risk better. And with risk also, as that saying goes, a mayor riesgo, mayor ganancia, to bigger risk, bigger rewards. So I think, in that sense, we get excited. And when we're on top of that roller coaster, then we start understanding the problems and the systems and the things that we need to get so that we don't fall down and are able to lift the plane back up. But I definitely think there is a part of risk. I myself, I guess I could be considered a risk taker. The sports of my preference are enduro motorcycle that I started like 7 years ago. I competed in it and I find it amazing. Rock climbing, I started last century. I'm an old school rock climber. I guess that's how they present me at the crack nowadays. I started in 98 in Monterrey, Mexico. I've been lucky to climb in over 19 countries in 5 continents. And every time I go somewhere, I want to go and find a rock that I can go climbing 1 or 2 days. And I also do some open water and downhill mountain bike. So yeah, I guess, I share with you recently that I had an accident where I broke my leg climbing in the Dolomites in Italy. And it always comes back to that, right? Like, what's the worth? And is the risk the worth? Or, what is it all about in the end, right? You are born, you die, and in the middle you have fun. And what is fun for you? And how can you manage not being in a hospital a long time between that part?
Indeed. Unfortunately, you did spend quite a bit of time in and out of hospital with that injury from the Dolomites as well, didn't you?
Hi, it's Josh. Thanks for listening to the show. When founders talk about the dream exit, they're really talking about freedom. Freedom to choose how to use their time and to decide what comes next. As a client of JB Ware in New Zealand, I know this is what sets them apart. They help entrepreneurs and leaders turn success into significance. A great exit isn't just about the commas in your bank account. It's about what those commas allow you to create. Two Commas is proudly partnered with JB Ware, helping founders by putting their wealth to work for generations.
Yeah, I think that we evaluate things probably more rapidly than those who have not had the same experience base that we've had. So we probably have an instinctive thing around how we assess something. I also believe that most entrepreneurs, so I'll go up a step. So I think that we have one shared value as a species, and it's not love, it's not trust. I'm going to talk about trust in a second, but it's actually freedom, the desire and the pursuit of freedom. And I think that as founders, as entrepreneurs, we probably are a lot closer and more tied to that notion of freedom than those who pursue the path of security and safety through a job. And so I've thought about this quite a lot, and I haven't been able to dig up a better shared value. We all make it mean different things, but the notion of being able to dictate what it is that you do with your days and then hope to get an outsized return for those efforts. And sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't work out, but we do have the ability to choose what we do largely with our time. So
I love that. And following up on that, I think it has to do with we're probably then kind of misfits to a system where we're looking for that freedom and we're looking for that availability of be owners of our own time. They say that the biggest resource of an entrepreneur is time. You're able to manage your time and be able to say, I'm going to take longer vacations. I'm going to travel. I'm going to have a 3 or 4 day weekday or whatever. But I think it does have at a certain extent, kind of like that misfit part of not wanting to be a part of a system that you probably think that it is in a sense broken, and finding a lot of value of not being part of that system where you can find that you're able to sell more, to have bigger profits, to grow more. And there is a cost also, right? There is a cost of sleeping or not sleeping at 3 a.m. in the morning, thinking how you're going to make payroll, or anxious because your client hasn't paid the 30-day promise that they said they would, and they say that next Friday and it turns into next Wednesday and whatnot. We've all been through that. But I think it is something in there that you were mentioning that I think was valued to share as well.
Yeah. So you mentioned something a second ago, which was business forms at the speed of trust, which I love as an expression, by the way. And with your Kinney Mobile company, you were across 12 countries, I think that you said. And you had partners in each of those countries. And at the core of partnership, you need to have some semblance or at least an appropriate level of trust. So what are the things that you do to build trust and assess someone's trustworthiness as quickly as you possibly can?
Wow, that's a great question. A friend of mine used to say that go do something with someone, and how they do anything is how they do everything. You can be really observant if you go and play golf and you see if they cheat, if they hit where they should hit, or if their best putt is the pencil. So there's many ways of kind of like understanding, but you have to be very observant. And I do had some experiences where that trust has been broken. And there's also that gut feeling, right? When you feel that things are not right and you feel that there's something missing, and there's a lot of energy being spent in things that seem, not relevant, but in the end, they all have to do with something. In the end, in that business, we had a tremendous experience of partners who were our partners for over a decade. And in that partnership, after we had exited the business, we came to find out by our biggest competitor that they were partners in that business as well in the same time. This is something that I have never shared in a podcast before, but it was in a way humbling and a confirmation of the good decision that we had made of saying, I guess it's just confirming everything that we felt. And it's just so much good to not have that worry of having that type of partnership anymore during your lifetime, which is something really, really good for your body and for your soul.
I love the expression, how you do anything is how you do everything. It's absolute gold. And I do agree with that being the case. I think that we can believe that we're able to compartmentalize our lives into different aspects. And I observe people that can switch off, not a habit or a value set, but they can switch off from a thought pattern. And I believe it's a real gift for some folk to be able to have that. But the way that you behave in situation A is likely to be very, very similar to B, C, and D. So just going back to that partnership instance that you had where you essentially there was a breach of trust. So you had a partner that you were in business for many, many years, and you discovered subsequently that they were operating with a direct competitor. They also were working with a direct competitor, which was outside of the bounds of your agreement. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was not working with them. They were partners. They bought a stake in the company of the direct competitor, and they kept it out of our know-how.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, I was often thinking, I was a manager of that company for 4 or 5 years, and I was often thinking, wow, they're just like right behind our heels. If we make this decision, then they copy it. If we buy in this media, then they buy in that media. So they were like a step behind us, and I was always thinking, why would that be? And I guess in a trip in Africa, someone mentioned to me that, I used to be a partner in this company, but I sold it to your past partners. I was like, that can't be. They were partners with us when that happened. And he was like, yep, I wanted you to know. Well, thank you for that.
Wow. When you found out, what did you make that mean? Was it that they were just kind of in it for the money and they didn't have the character that you thought, or was it something different?
I think it comes down to values. I think maybe we were not open in doing business like they wanted to make it, and we were kind of like a hurdle in keeping the ship in a steady way, and maybe we were an inconvenience to them. But yeah, it was definitely about the business and making money, and not about strong relationships or long-term relationships.
Yeah, got it. Okay. Hey, you mentioned freedom of time a second ago as well. So the ability to choose how we spend our time. And Warren Buffett he's got an expression which is that time is the great leveler. So, we're all given the same amount of time, and it's the only thing that we truly spend. It is gone. Once we've spent it, we're not able to recoup time. And so given your explanation of your extracurricular activities, so climbing, motocross, enduro, open ocean swimming, and also you chaired the Entrepreneurs Organization Global Board recently, those all indicate a man that has the ability to choose what he does with his time, much more so than someone who is enslaved by their business. I've just finished my book, 2 Commas. I should have a copy of it that I'd be able to show you, or in the background. We'll add it into the post-production here. But one of the key things that I talk about is for people to understand that their business is an asset, and they have the ability to dictate their interaction with that asset, rather than the asset kind of tell them how to lead their lives and wake them up at all hours and have them kind of be enslaved by this thing. So for you, and I think this is touching to one of your strong points, what conscious decisions do you make to ensure that you are not at the mercy of your business, but rather the business does the things that you want it to do? How do you approach that problem that we all face?
Yeah, it's a good problem to have. I was lucky to find the Entrepreneurs Organization in 2012. I think it came at a good time. They say that when the student is ready, the teacher comes, and it was a type of teacher. And I was currently buying one of the businesses to one of my partners at that time, and I was studying in the entrepreneurial master's program. That it's a master's with MIT in Dedham, Massachusetts, and in that master's is a 3-year program. And a lot of what they tell you is get out of the operations of your business. You cannot see the forest if you're standing right in front of it. You have to be the visionary. You have to be above it. And you have to have strong operations teams so that the business is able to work without you grinding every day. And I think I took it too far, and I took it to heart. And that with adding the path of leadership of EO. So I graduated in 2015. And that year, I graduated Global Leadership Academy, and also I was president of EO Guatemala. So I've always been but that time I already had the 2 businesses at the same time. So I had the 2 businesses. I was a path of leadership in EO, and I also was studying. And I think it was really helpful to get out of the daily context and to be able to dedicate 1/3 of my time to, I don't know, to being of service to others throughout this amazing organization, and also having my time divided with the two businesses. So I wasn't all the time giving 100% of my time to the business, but only 1/3 of it. When I graduated at college, I studied in Monterrey, Mexico, in a university called Tec de Monterrey. It's a good university, and a lot of they are very pushing towards entrepreneurship. And I had a couple accidents there. One was a car crash, and the second one was a climbing accident. I don't know if I shared it with you in your travels to Guatemala, but over 400 bees stung me. I had to jump from a fifth-story building, not a building, but from a crag. But it was 12 meters high, 36 feet, and I broke my neck, my ankle, and it was a really hard accident. And I had over 400 stings. They would get into my nostrils, in my throat, in my ears. So it was a tremendous, like, there should be a scary movie on that. But in the end, for sure, it shouldn't be called It. It should be like Itch or something like that. But it was the thing of nightmares. But what came out of it, when you're close to a moment where you see your life go like in front of your eyes, and you think about, oh my God, what is this all about? There comes a beautiful existential crisis after something that hits you so hard, where you think about, what is this all about? I mean, I almost died. What if I would have died? What is it all about? Is it all about the system, this educational system? Then I was thinking, I'm going to graduate. I'm going to go into a larger system, like the world system, the economy system, and I'm going to be there forever. And I recall my mother, she would talk about my grandfather, who I'm named after. His name was Joaquin Crespo. He was a Cuban immigrant. And she said, he had a great time because he was an entrepreneur, and she would share what he would do. So I heard that notion of entrepreneurship very early in my life. And I had started businesses in school. I would sell like whatever I could find, like posters or popcorn. And I was a DJ in school, and I did a video store back in the time where there were VHS, and so and so. And so I was trying to build something. So when this existential crisis came, and I thought, what is this about? And I graduated college. I thought, I want to go and start working a company where I can understand some of the things that I don't know. And then I want to start something because I want to continue climbing for life. And I want to have at least 2, 3, or 4 weeks a year where I go climb. And I don't have to be the strongest climber. I don't have to be the best climber. I just have to enjoy it and be able to find the peace and meditation that I do when I go to the mountains. So kind of like with this basic principle, I thought I'm going to do that. And I started going in this TV channel where I worked until it got sold. It was an interesting business. I was the CEO of that business. It was sold for over 2 commas. It was interesting participating in that M&A. Was my first experience in an M&A like that. And like that, I learned a lot in that business about having contracts, the relevance of having contracts in a business. This was a person who was a mentor to me. He is an uncle, and he was married to my mom's cousin. He was a tremendous friend also. He is a tremendous friend also. He coincidentally, he was in the board of directors of the International Olympic Committee, one of the few Latin Americans who participated in the IOC at that level. And I was able, he empowered me a lot, so I was able to manage his business, understand the relevance of contracts, of keeping your word, of having good relationships, of making bridges. So I got a lot of insights that I didn't have before. I had the hunger, I had the ideas of businesses, and I had kind of like the knowing that I would do that. But this experience over 7 years, it gave me a lot of information. And then when that business got sold, I thought, now it's time. I'm going to start my own thing. And I did, and it's been evolving, and it's gone through so many crises, and it's been reinvented so many times, and we continue to grow. And I've managed to be able to think of it that way, but there's comes times like in COVID where our biggest client, which was what they called a Black Widow client, that if it goes, it kills you. They were like Yeah, they were like
You heard
45.
that before?
They were like 45% of our revenue, a telecom company also, but in the advertising agency. So they were out of El Salvador. Um, and they said like next month we're gonna stop working with you guys. Sorry, but it's COVID and whatnot. And so we had to manage to convince all the team to stay. The ones who wanted, the ones who didn't, kind of like filtered all the bad apples and made decisions for me that I should have done a long time ago. And I was able to kind of like save that business, and we came out so much stronger from that hardship that COVID was. And nowadays, I feel like I see things differently, and I'm always learning. I love having a growth mindset and finding ways of how to improve. I constantly do checkups of are the clients that we have the kind of clients that we want? Are they aligned to our purpose? Do they live our values as we do? What type of clients do we want, and so on. And it's been amazing, right? 16 years already with this business.
Amazing. You've given me a lot of high notes to touch on there. So let's go through and unpack each of those because they're good layups for me. Thank you. So the first is that you consciously went to work. So you'd had this kind of background of starting gigs, side hustles, main hustles throughout high school, through your studies as well. And so you then consciously made the decision to go and work for someone else. And then you took that business, you ended up progressing through that organization into the CEO role, and then took it through an ultimate sale. Was that intentioned for you? So just while you're thinking about that, I love the notion for a young wannabe founder, someone who's especially in their early 20s, if they haven't been in the workforce for very long, if they haven't worked alongside other folk much before, experienced good leadership, bad leadership, understood a sales process, understood how operations and fulfillment need to work. There's so many things you need to understand in a business. One of the things I say to hopeful young entrepreneurs is that if you don't start in your early 20s, it's fine, but go and work alongside a founder. Go and work alongside an entrepreneur. Don't go and work at the big bank or the big telco or the big insurance company, because they're not going to teach you anything. Nothing that'll be helpful for you to start a business. So for you, was that intentioned to go and work at the television station to learn from someone with an entrepreneurial mindset, or did it more kind of happen ending up being that way?
It was interesting because I was just graduating the university, and this person said, "I'm starting a TV channel, and I would love if you could come help me with it." And I would have not probably started working at a company if it wouldn't have been for that. And this was, I believe, his first entrepreneurship experience, and he was someone in his 60s. So it was really interesting because he had a lot of knowledge of many different types of businesses. He was a director in a huge Central American business, over 3 commas, I guess. And he was starting his own new business out of great relationships and out of trust. So he, at the time, was also the Minister of Tourism for Guatemala. So he was not able to be in his business as he would have wanted. So he needed someone who he could trust and to delegate. And I was just, kind of like just recently out of college. I was starting my career, getting married. I didn't have any kids back then, and it was a great fit. But now that you said it, I didn't think I realized that he was being an entrepreneur, and I think that makes a big difference. I think if I just would have gone to work with somebody who had not had experience, that he would have seen things differently.
Yeah. Looking back, probably in hindsight, it was a wonderful decision to have that cutting your teeth under someone else's dime, but also with such a great relationship base and probably some resources to be able to dig into as well. So learning the lessons on someone else's dime and time is how the expression goes.
And not just the business that I'm currently in, because that business was a TV channel that then expanded to sell airtime in cable, to have an agency, a production company, and other things. And I guess when I exited that business, or the business was sold, and I thought, it's time to start something, I started it through communications, through production company, through audio visuals, doing commercials. And then I expanded to having media, selling air cable time. And then because, it was what I had already done and I had already been doing. And it was just like a it made complete sense. And then while I was doing this, a client said, I want you to do a TV commercial, but can you tell me what to do it on? You don't have an agency? No. All right, we'll do creative services for you as well. And that's how it started growing. But it was great to experience that. I had already worked when I was a kid, like at 13 and 14 years of age, in an advertising agency back then, Young and Rubicam, just like a vacationer, just vacation work. And in the end, I studied some classes on communications. So I guess there are some touch points where I like communications, and I probably unconsciously was, aiming for something like that. I mean, I love the idea of telling stories, of giving creative services, and I think it suited really well for me.
Yeah, yeah. I'm going to ask you a question, and then I'll give you a quick explanation to enable you to think about what the answer to the question is. So the question is, you've been around entrepreneurship for over 3 decades now. I won't age you any further than that. So over 3 decades in and around entrepreneurship. And so what about entrepreneurship hasn't changed? Now, whilst you're thinking about that, I've a similar duration, a little bit shorter time of running my own things than you, 25 years, I think I am. And so over that time, the things that have changed about entrepreneurship is the access to resources, knowledge, capital, information, perhaps relationships as well. That's just completely been flipped on its head in the last 20 years. Your ability to build technology, so to make things just so fast. So there's a solution to most problems in the world now. It's really up to you to go out and find that solution or build something quick and easy yourself through the utilization of artificial intelligence. The competitive landscape is just so much more crowded than it once was. So those are a couple of 3 examples of things that have massively changed about entrepreneurship over the time that you've been in and around it. What do you think has stayed the same, though?
I think the thing that stays the same is, I think it has to do with the fire inside of someone who wants to build something. That passion of being able to think about a problem that needs to be solved and how to make it better and gain a profit out of it. Sometimes it comes through the possibility of not being able to get what one wants throughout a job. And sometimes it can be something really natural for a person to do. I mean, there's a lot of businesses that people fall into entrepreneurship without wanting, because probably someone died and they left the business to them, and it's just as stressful and whatnot. But I think it has to do with thinking outside of the box on how to be able to serve, in seeing a line and knowing that there's an opportunity. I think it has to do a lot with that, because everything has changed and everything changes every day. Before it was internet, then digital, now AI, and there's still opportunity on how to teach on doing AI or how to train on doing AI. And I think if people have that growth mindset, they're able to rise above any competition. I had a teacher who used to say that if you think of 4 options, that would be great, because most people think of 3 options. And if you think of 4, you're 25% ahead or 33% ahead of other people. So I think if you read, a lot of people don't read. And they say that if you know how to read, but you decide not to, you have the same competitive advantage as someone who doesn't read at all. But if you're continuously trying to find a new way and trying to understand a new insight, what can this chapter give me? And if you get one idea from a book, that you're a long way ahead of many others. So I think, those little nuances, if you're able to get psyched on doing that growth, you're able to be so much ahead of so many people and able to see opportunities where others don't see them.
Yeah, I love that. Hey, so going back to your climbing, the first of the ones that I know of, climbing incident. So the 400 bee stings, the broken neck, that one, and you mentioned that it gave you some pretty phenomenal perspective on things. I'm guessing that meant, life, your place in it, reflection on mortality, that sort of thing. Is that where you kind of cottoned on to and connected up the dots with the notion of service? Because service you've mentioned on 3 occasions so far on this call, and it's very important to me as well. But I'd like to hear your story around service first. So was that the moment, and what do you make it mean?
I don't know if it was that precise moment. I've always had the feeling or I don't know, the urge to be helpful. And one of the times that I felt most helpful was when I was invited to universities to talk about my experience being an entrepreneur. And it's really interesting because when you are in front of the class and you're sharing and you're teaching, first you learn more. So you get out of your comfort zone and you learn how to speak better in front of audiences, and you learn more about the subject that you're teaching and whatnot. And I felt like, oh my God, they didn't pay me or anything, but I felt really rewarded to myself by being of service to others. Um, and I felt that urge of being helpful to the community or to the society, but I didn't find a way on how to do it. I was back in the university. I was on the student of Guatemalan Student Association. I was president of that association. Then when I graduated, I helped found the past president organization of that university in Guatemala. We're over like 300 graduates from that university here in Guatemala, and there's over 100 now studying there. Um, and I would like do funds or make a golf tournament and raise funds to be able to help or support communities and whatnot. But it was something very dissipated and very small efforts probably. And then when I knew about this organization that I'm in, an entrepreneurs organization, and when I started back then in 2012, I was lucky. And I said that I was lucky because there is this path of leadership, because the beauty of the organization is that it depends on its members who lead it. And it has over 2,000 member leaders who volunteer their time, and it's a lot of time to support, move the world forward by unlocking the full potential of entrepreneurs, which is the purpose of this organization. And since day one, I came in and they told me, you're going to be membership chair next year. So you're going to become membership chair this year. So congratulations, you're on the board. It's like, oh my God, that's nice. I'm going to learn new ways of how to manage or improve my management skills of boards and whatnot. And I started working with peers, and it's people who you're not paying or they're not paying you. So you learn how to manage people through different shared interests that are not monetary. And I think that is a great learning all in itself. But then I understood, like, okay, so this is where I'm focused right now, and this is where I'm going to be of service to others. And I've been for that for the last 14 years, almost a month away from 14 years. And it's been amazing. And I joke, but not so much with my team about what they're going to do with me next year when I finish my chair role in June next year, which I'm going to have all the time in the world. So I've been thinking about it because, it's a big change after having this focus so diligent in doing something for so many years and then just cutting off from one day to the next. And I'm being intentful on how to fill that time. I don't want to just, kind of like continue managing it with all the things that I have. I don't want to come back to the company and just flip it over side down when it's working and it's working well. I want to continue supporting it mostly in a commercial way and in strategy and seeing where we go in 2030 and what so, but also in being able to do some of the things that I love most, being able to, share more time with the family, go do enduro, go do rock climbing, and think, be more diligent with my time, I guess. But that's one of the things that I think I would love for the next period of my life, and also find another way where I can be of service. Maybe it's sharing my experience. Maybe it's becoming an author. And congratulations to you, my friend, on your new book. That's tremendous. I think that is
Thank
a
you.
great way of being of service to so many, sharing your learnings and your experience. And it's one of the best ways that we can help raise where we stand.
I talk about this when I'm doing one of the things that my gigs is professional speaking, and I do a thing on connection. And there's a reality that we're facing into as a species right now, is that we emerged and survived and prospered based upon us being community minded, so operating as a group. So the thing that separated us from the beasts in the first place was the ability to communicate in structured language and then recall those stories, recall those experiences and those lessons through stories. And so we progressed as a group, as a tribe. Then we became into towns and villages, and then ultimately cities, and then ultimately into nation states over time. And there was often a common enemy, and there was someone else that was wrong, that was different, and we might go to war with those people, but that was okay because we were part of our group. And so the feeling of being alienated or separated from a group is akin to death. For us, it's the worst possible feeling that we can have as a species, because once it did mean death. So if we misbehaved by the rules of the tribe, our earlier ancestors would have cast someone out of the group, either temporarily or permanently, and to be alone meant to die, typically, because you didn't have shared resources nor protection from your enemies or larger prey. And the problem that we're facing, I believe, as a species, is that we've moved away from this collectivism into individualism. So it's all about social profiling, be all you can be, chase your dreams, get all the things that you want. And the cost of that has been that we are separating ourselves and that we're losing this kind of inherent, I believe, reality for us is that deep satisfaction, deep contentment as an individual comes from finding a way to serve others that is within your superpower set, that brings you some joy, that enables the growth and the development of others. And I think we've forgotten that as a species. I think that we've kind of gone, the most unhappy people that I see, and I know some of them, and I know of some of these people, are those that are very selfish and internally focused, and they're deeply, deeply unsatisfied, and they just can't seem to get a grip that it's because they just focus on their own desires, their own wants, and maybe their own needs, but it's desires and wants. And what did Buddha teach us? Dukkha. Life is dukkha, and that's the first tenet of Buddhism. And it means that the life is unsatisfying. Life is, what's the expression? To live is to suffer. That's what we make it mean in the West. What they actually intended to make it mean is it's the delta between what we have and what we want to have. And so that's the difference between those two. That's what they refer to as being dukkha. And so it's all about the things that we want, and not getting those things lead us towards an unsatisfying or a life of suffering. And so I think that for those of us that have stumbled into this thing called service, found something that we can excel at, found something that we can support and grow others through, it becomes a deeply satisfying pursuit. I guess, have you got the same sort of thoughts as me up front?
I think so, yeah. And it's amazing because our brains, they still react to something like that, to feeling outside of the group and just being outside of the cave and being in the panic mode or fight or flight, of thinking, oh my God, I'm not part of this group anymore. And it's interesting because we're feeling alienated when we have the most connection ever. Like, you go into Instagram or Facebook or whatever. We talked recently about how that Instagram can be addictive, as TikTok or many others. And you're there and you're connected, but you're seeing things differently, in a different way, of people enjoying themselves, and you're not probably enjoying there. You have that new FOMO, which relates to that also, the fear of missing out. So there's a lot of things that I think relate to that.
I talk about timing as being a critical thing, not just for you to get right from a market perspective, so that your business is growing, the market is growing, customers are acquiring more, and wanting more from people like you, businesses like you. That's really important. But also timing personally is really, really important. So
at what stage of your life you're at, right?
Exactly. Our energy goes up and down, right? And so the ability for us to lean into something and put the, spectacular amount of effort into getting something out of the ground, it's a lot of work, right? Yeah. And so and also energy naturally ebbs over time as well. I see people hit the wall often at 7 years. We have natural 7-year cycles in nature. It tends to be the case, and as a species, as humans, we experience those as well. And so after about 7 years in a business, often relationships fall over at 7 years as well. It's the most common point of divorce. Not sure if you're aware of that. But once you get past 7 years, you're likely to stick that thing through. So people kind of need to understand where their energy levels are at. So you were going to add back into that story about your own experience there?
Yeah. So it is interesting with cultures, right? Because I think in Latin America, you have people who do businesses and they think that these businesses will continue to support their family for generations and whatnot. But countries like the US, for example, people are doing business to sell them and to start another one or buy another one and sell it again. And they have this idea of these exits, the recurring exits, and each time a bigger business and a bigger effort and a bigger sell. So I think there is that part culturally also. And either way, if you're thinking about selling your business or not, you should have it as if you were wanting to sell it. Like you should have all the numbers as beautiful and pristine. If someone knocks your door today and be able to say, "This is what I profit, this is my EBITDA, this is my cost," or whatever, and just have it ready in case that the opportunity strikes, because you don't know when it could strike. But if you also are working diligently on having it in the best possible way for sale, it means you're being very diligent as well in managing the business and in trying to have the best business possible.
I couldn't agree more. I have an expression which is that a great business to buy is a great business to keep. It's not reliant upon you as the founder to be there on a day-to-day basis. It's profitable. It's growing. You've got a good enviable position in the market, number one, number two, preferably. And so if you have your business always in that state of being exit ready, which is what I call one of my programs is called Exit Ready, you may decide to keep the business because it's become a better place for you to exist within, or you may decide to sell it because that's the right moment for you to do that and head off to pursue other opportunities. So we're very much speaking from the same hymn sheet there. Hey, so you're a wide reader, as am I, and I think that that's another one of those things that perhaps is ebbing away. I personally have gotten a lot of satisfaction from going through philosophy, particularly Stoicism, so reading quite deeply on Stoicism. And one of the modern ways of thinking about, what are we going to do once AI has taken quite a number of the knowledge jobs is we'll be required to think and have taste and discernment around selection. And philosophy is about thinking, right? It teaches you literally how to think better. But are there particular subjects that you've found to be really enriching and you can connect up dots in relation to your business life as well? Are there things that you've gone deep into which have been very informative for how you've gone about doing business?
Yeah, at some point, a friend of mine said, like, and I tried to share that insight with my daughter, and I tell her, you're the principal of your movie. You're the first actor of your life, and your movie is your life, and you have to, be able to understand what your superpowers, or what type of superpowers would you like to have. And she would say, like, "Oh, I would like to understand what people are thinking," or I would like to be able to feel like I can. And I would say, well, if you really read 10 books on that subject, you're going to become an expert in that subject. And if you want to understand what people are thinking, then it would be helpful to understand body communication, because they might not say it in words, but they might say it in how they show themselves. So you can find a lot of books on that. And I just started becoming a tremendous fan of Stoicism as well. So that's something we have in common. And I started with all the Ryan Holiday books, and I loved them. And then I continued with meditations, and then with Manual for a Living from Epictetus. And I tried to go into the rabbit hole with it, and I just find it like another fellow podcaster, Tim Ferriss, says, that it is the best operating system for human beings. And I loved it, and I learned so much from it, learned so much about myself from it, and I try to apply it all the time. And I've had a lot of people who also have found a lot of value out of those things. And when you think about it, it's amazing. Like 2,000 years ago, 2,100 years ago, those guys were having some anxiety issues like we have today. You wouldn't be able to imagine that they would have anxiety without a cell phone, without a job like we currently have, without traffic. Like, oh my God, so many things now. But it's true. I mean, we were human beings back then, and we're human beings now. And I love the idea of what you're sharing about AI and how there will be value in discerning. And I recently interviewed Rebecca Huang, who is a Stanford professor and who is in the tip of AI and whatnot. And she was revealing that there will be a lot of value in made by humans as well, and things, how much further they will get going. On one side, the other day, my brother was asking me on the agency how much you use AI, and I said, like, yeah, we use it a lot, but still it's not there for audiovisuals and whatnot. And he gave me the reference of when cars started to exist, and cars would get stuck on mud, but horses would be able to go through it, and they would say, like, yeah, sure, it's not there yet. And I agree, like, the videos that we were seeing 6 months ago are not the videos that we're seeing today. So the evolution on it, it's just tremendous. And we're trying to get a hold as much as we can and be experts on it as well, and be able to share the knowledge that we've gained on it. And the last time I asked the ambassador on AI from my company, he said that we were using 26 different AI tools for anything from editing, audio, video, to making clips if it's in podcasts, or to helping us improve the music or the audio that we use in commercials, or so many other things that we use daily.
Yes, I totally agree. It's both exciting and terrifying in equal measure. I did the soft book launch last week, and the key questions that I've been asked leading up to this point in time, and indeed they were the ones that people asked me as we were leading into the few words that I was going to say, was why did you write a book? And then how did you write a book? And I won't give all of those things away because they're coming up in various different forms of communication. But did I use AI? Of course I used AI. It would be remiss of me to not utilize it as a thought partner, as a list generator, as a someone to spar with backwards and forwards on different things. So AI makes a great thought partner and researcher, but it's a terrible writer. Especially if you want to go through the journey. I firmly believe in that notion of enriching your thinking through dialogue, through conversation, but also through writing. It's a wonderful way. Both of those things are a wonderful way to expand out your thinking. And if you want to understand, picking up on a point that you made earlier on, if you want to understand something deeply, go and either teach it or write about it. And then you have to understand it deeply. Otherwise, it'll be pretty obvious that you don't really get what it is that you're talking about.
It's amazing how much doing the work of writing, and out of this course that I did on leadership, they shared about the journaling, right? And a lot of people picked up on it. And just the neuroscience effect that it has to write with your own handwriting, something like it has such a different impact. And I started writing the daily writing. Some people call it the miracle morning. Like 1 minute you get up, why am I alive today? 10 minutes of positive reading, 10 minutes meditation, 10 minutes journaling. And I find that journaling is the hardest to do because I guess it has more effort. But also, I started putting down like the numbers. I don't know if you read The Gap and the Gain. It's a really good book about high performers and how they are always depressed or anxious because they haven't reached the next step, but they don't see all the gains that they have throughout their life. And I started putting the number of day that I was writing on my journal. And I've written over 2,000 days now. And it's amazing how it helps you formulate ideas in your mind, and the effect is so compounding. It's tremendous.
I love it. 2,000 days, you say, of journaling?
Yeah.
That's remarkable. Yeah, what's the expression? We, as a species, we've got this collective thing that I talked about, but also we're very competitive. It's one of the ways that we've managed to continue to advance and improve. And our system, we're fighting for resources inside our system. We come through the school system and we're compared to each other. We get into the workforce and we compete for promotions or for opportunities. We compete to win clients. There's this inherent world of competition. And so naturally, what we end up doing is comparing ourselves, competition, compare, of the same Latin origins. We compare ourselves to others, and it's deeply, deeply unnerving and unsatisfying to do so. Whereas the process of journaling is one of self-reflection and looking back, as well as kind of living in that particular point in time. So I totally agree. I've done a few posts on it, but I've got, I think, not 2,000 days, but I reckon I've probably got something in the region of, I've been doing it for about 8 years. And just on the weekend just gone, actually, I'll share this with you. I was writing and it was a beautiful sunny afternoon. And we have these, we call them New Zealand Christmas trees, pahutakawa, which is a beautiful native tree here that has these red needles on it. And a wind had come through and had blown these needles all over my deck. And I was thinking about writing about these needles, and I said, that's pointless. So I wrote a poem called Needles on My Deck. Now, I haven't written a poem for probably 25 years. And then I wrote another poem. And it was just the act of writing on a regular basis gives you the comfort with having the pen in your hand and letting, like, wherever ideas come from just flow through you. And it was just really satisfying to kind of have this different method of self-expressionism. And so I really love that you're on the same page there with it.
Nice. Yeah.
So you're in Guatemala City. So we met in Auckland, New Zealand originally on Waiheke, and then we came to your lovely home in Guatemala City. But for those unfamiliar, I have had a wonderful time. As we mentioned to you, it was our absolute favourite part of our trip through Central America. As a local, what should one expect if and when people visit Guatemala, Kini?
Oh, that's a good question. I think people are really friendly in Guatemala, and I feel that people want to be of service also. Like they're trying their best to help you have a good time. They try their best to tell you where to go and what to expect. You're gonna find it with the people who are servicing you in restaurants and hotels. Everybody's trying to make the best of your stay. I feel that Guatemalans, we all love our country very much, and we want everybody to come and experience it. And we just try our best when people do that. Surprising things about Guatemala: it has a growth year to year of over 3 to 4%, and it's year over year. Like you can expect that growth to happen. It's got a positive pyramid. It's got a lot of youth. It also has. It is a service country that sends a lot of people to work to the U.S. principally, and they send a lot of money back, over $2 billion a month now in the system, which is our biggest income as a country. So we all think that we're an agricultural country because we have a lot of sugar and coffee and whatnot, but it's actually the service that we go do to other countries that is what gives us most. And also stability, like the coin in Guatemala, the quetzal, it's been 7.75 to $1 for the last 30 years. Maybe it fluctuates to 7.85 or somewhere around that range, but it'll be like 15 or 20 cents for over that amount of time. I think only Paraguay in Latin America has that strong of an economy, and it has to do with the central banking policies that the country has. So I and people can expect. There's so many beautiful things in Guatemala. We have a great cultural Mayan heritage, beautiful Mayan cities that are uncovered on the northern side. There is recently a video of a jaguar getting very close. I sent it to you, but you had already seen it. Very close to some tourists in Tikal. And also we have beautiful lakes, with great fishing in the South Pacific, and a very strong entrepreneurial community as well. Like in EO, Guatemala was the largest chapter in Latin America for over 10 years. And now recently Argentina passed us with 147 members. Guatemala has 126. So we do love to have that entrepreneurial mindset and spirit and to be able to create value.
I love it. I would absolutely advocate and agree with your notion of service. One of the things that Tina and I experienced was it manifests as warmth, and authentic warmth of people wanting you to be there. And I would compare it to the Balinese. I'm not sure if you've been to Bali, but there's a genuine warmth and care for both your well-being, but also you making sure that you're having a good time as a tourist, as a visitor to the country. And so if I compare it with other kind of Latin American countries that I've been to, there was more of a sense in a number of those places of people wanting something from you, as opposed to wanting to make sure that you're just having a good time and you're okay. Nice. So we genuinely felt that consistently. Beautiful, beautiful country, by the way. So some spectacular mountains, volcanoes, beautiful lakes, the ruins, the heritage, the culture of the people, very strong connection with the Mayan culture. Whereas we genuinely felt that there was the strong thread in the manifestation of the Mayan culture was very real, and especially in the parts of the world that we went to. And the last thing that I'd say about Guatemala, and there's many, many things that I could say, but we'll turn this into a Guatemala tourist show, is that it felt incredibly safe. So at no stage, in no place, did we feel unsafe. And that's not something that I can say for every place that I have visited in Central America. And a few times in some of the bigger cities, there were some parts of, driving around, even in your car on foot, that you'd feel like this is not a part of town that I'd want my wife to go to alone, and maybe even not with some of her girlfriends, whereas we never had that experience in Guatemala. So, and the last thing, you talk about the reliability of the quetzal. It actually reflected great value in the country. So you can still have a wonderful experience and a meal and accommodation for not a whole lot of money. So, I would recommend it thoroughly to anyone to go to Guatemala, and we've harped on about it endlessly since we got back to New Zealand. So that's our plug for the Guatemalan tourist sector. I've got a standard parting question for people, Keeney, and you've forged a path as a entrepreneur. You've done a bunch of investment activities. You've found your way into service, and that's been deeply satisfying for you as well. But there's an alternate universe, and there's a different Joaquin Cordero, and he's found a different career altogether, which is also very satisfying to him. What would that alternate Joaquin's career be?
There are so many alternative universes where everything happens all the time. But I would say it is in the mountains, that alternative. And it might not be like the big CEO of a company or have a lot of people that I'm a leader of, but it might be in the connection of being in the mountains and sharing the love for the mountains and bringing people who are not as close to them and sharing all the positive benefits that you can get out of being there. And in a way of remuneration, I think a big part of it would be just in living there, just in being able to be close to them and feeling the energy that they bring and to use my body in great physical activities that bring so much peace and so much energy back into oneself.
I love it. Unexpected answer. But I think a lot of this conversation has been unexpected, but very, very enjoyable. So I thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your time. I think if you service to Entrepreneurs Organisation, it's a beautiful thing that we're both a part of, and actually the same duration. It was 2011, 2012 nice. That I became involved, but I haven't climbed up through the leadership ranks, the volunteer leadership ranks, the way that you have. Such a selfless thing to do, to move into that world, and not an easy role from what I understand as well. And so I can't wait for us to catch up again, either in New Zealand or in Guatemala or somewhere in the middle along the way. But I'm very grateful for you coming on the show today, Kenny. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Josh, and congratulations. What you're doing is admirable, my friend. It is humbling and also inspiring. I think that not only sharing knowledge throughout this channel with the podcast, but also with dedicating the time of your life to being able to write a book. They say that everybody should be able to write a book in their lifetime. I am not there yet, but I'll follow up in your steps. And I'll do so also in inviting you officially to my podcast.
I'd love to. Just one request, though. My Spanish is dreadful, so it'll need to be in English.
Of course. I do it in English as well, so no problem. We'll put subtitles.
Oh, that's a relief. We learned Spanish before we left New Zealand, a small amount, and then it dropped off just through the intensity of what was involved. And it's one thing to learn it when you're listening to repetitions backwards and forwards, and then you turn up to a country and you have a Spanish phrase, you get the sea of Spanish back at you. And it was overwhelming at times. So I'm very pleased that you are fluent in English. So I can't wait.
Oh, thank you so much, my friend. And thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks for listening to the show. If you've enjoyed it, and if you've gotten this far, you definitely have, then I reckon you should go and check out a copy of my book. It's available on my website or Amazon.com. There's an Audible version as well. And it's a blend of personal insight and experience on what it takes to build and sell a company. It's not a how-to guide. You can go to ChatGPT for that. I've had some wonderful unsolicited feedback from people, but I did ask some folk for it, and here is one of the bits of feedback that has come from one of the early readers. Josh has created something rare, a guide that's both deeply practical and genuinely wise. His writing is punchy, clear, and feels like sitting across the table from someone who's been through it all and knows exactly what you need to hear. This is the resource every founder needs when facing the biggest decision of their professional life. Honest, actionable, and completely grounded in reality. That's from Susie McAlpine, who is herself a best-selling author and a speaker and business advisor. Please go check out a copy available on the website. Thanks for listening.